Never date a woman over the age of 30. Trust me, you will live to regret it. It is a bad investment. It is a waste of time. What you got to understand about a woman, what they have to offer, it's two things. Number one, their fertility. Number two, their looks, their beauty. Listen, there's a woman who turns 18 every single minute of the day.
I saw this video on a podcast about the way men and women date, and I really want to react to it. Apparently, women tend to be more hypergamous than men, and this is a big problem in the dating hemisphere. So let's react. You're watching the Kenim O show, and I'm your host, Kenim O. All right, let us watch this video. I have so much to unpack here, but let me watch it.
Pew put out a study that said that 78% of women would not date a partner or not get with a prospective mate that did not make more than they did. And only 48% of men shared that view.
Come on. And you now
No, sorry, go ahead.
You have an ever increasing group of high-performing women competing for an ever decreasing group of ultra-high-performing men. Mm-hmm. And the choice is, the analogy that I always use is, it's the same as being the tall girlfriend. Now, if you're a 6'1" without heels on woman, you're looking at professional athletes because on average, women want to date a man that is about 21 centimeters taller than her.
Yes.
That's another
yes,
Vincent Haranam statistic pull there. Interestingly, men prefer to date a woman that's, I think, 16 centimeters or 12 centimeters shorter than him. So even in that, and this is such a perfect example, right? Women want to date a man on average that's 21 centimeters taller. Men on average want to date a woman that is 16 centimeters shorter. In that, we have a disparity. We have the preference of a man and the preference of a woman, both moving in opposite directions, but not marrying up.
When he said marrying up, he means not matching up.
Yes. So the missing point here is not just the preference of a woman, because from the conversation we're having, we're discussing female mate preferences. But what is lost here are male mate preferences, what they're looking for in a prospective mate. So we talk about women.
I haven't even spoken about that. Yeah, men don't matter.
but even looking at what men desire in a partner, there's that notion that there's a new 18-year-old every day. And so these women that are achieving quite a bit, economically speaking, educationally speaking, are going to be on average much older than women just entering the bloom of their life. So they're competing against women who are on average more attractive to males. Because if it is the case that men are attracted to youth and fertility, you're down. You're behind the eighth ball if you're 35 with a PhD. Competing against an 18-year-old that is just hasn't had that much life experience, but is quite attractive to an older gentleman.
There's a woman who turns 18 every single minute of the day.
It's legal age. You can get with those women. 22, 25. Interact and deal with those women.
I don't know how old this man is, but what he just said was got to be some of the dumbest stuff. If you spend enough time talking to 18-year-olds when you nearing 30, that suffering.
Even 22.
And my mental health was deteriorating trying to talk to 18-year-olds. The fact that this man is acting like this is a prime solution is crazy to me.
A lot of guys, what they're doing is they're saying, well, I'm 30 years old, so I can settle down now. And I want to get a woman who's 30 or 35 or in my age range. It's not the same. See, you've probably been grinding and working hard in your 20s, right? You've been building yourself up. You've been doing the things you're supposed to do. You have built your business. You made a lot of money. Maybe you make 6 figures now or close to it. And that woman in her 20s, you know what she was doing? She probably went to a little college, but for the most part, she's been living her best life. She's been sleeping around, I'm telling you. She's been dating around with a lot of dudes, bar hopping, drinking, doing drugs, smoking, doing all types of things, wearing her body down, sleeping with this guy, getting used and abused.
So here's the thing. I'm not coming for these guys in this video, but here's my issue with these Manosphere channels that really promote this agenda. Kevin Samuels is probably the king of this, but they promote this agenda that take what you can get. That's kind of the mentality. Take what you can get, There's another video, and I'm going to watch this video also. I just want to look at this video, and it really just like someone sent it to me. I thought it was quite just ridiculous. Let me find it.
I know you women don't want to hear for someone like me, but if you're going to deal with someone that's anywhere with 10% and up, we're not even going to talk about 1%ers. That's not even an option. Don't even bring it up. They're going to slap you stupid. But if you're going to deal with a man that's financially stable and he can literally afford...
Give us a number so they can like, because they think I'm speaking Chinese when I say you're going to have to share the sex with them.
Honestly, finding a man that makes $100,000 or more is now becoming rare. It's now literally becoming more of a rare thing. If someone can make 6 figures, it's becoming a rare thing. But
and single and not ugly,
and
right?
single and no kids and attractive and charming, you're asking for a lot.
Wow.
Yeah.
So if you're dealing with someone that makes $1 million plus per year, we're talking about every 365 days, you will not be the only woman. That is a lie that women tell themselves because we want to feel special. It is impossible for a man that has access to every single thing. We're talking about unlimited Lamborghinis, Ferraris, townhouses, homes, trips, vacations, private islands, G5s. You think that women are not going to be readily available? They are on the shelf. CVS, Walmart, Target, you name it, they're there. Gas stations, they're at every steakhouse, they're at every corner, they are in your house, they're your cousins, your sisters, they're there because they have the money to do so. Because once a man has financial stability, he becomes appealing to everybody. Just ask Biggie Smalls.
Facts.
That kind of money. Ask Jay-Z. Does he not have Beyonce? Before Jay-Z got his money, no one was looking at him. Not to just Jay-Z, but when it comes to physical attributes, it was until he got his money that he could pull a Beyonce. Now, would Beyonce notice a man like him without those kind of financial stabilities? I highly doubt it. I highly doubt it. The Kardashians, they only fuck up. They're not gonna fuck down. If you're not financially stable, don't even look at a Kardashian. So a man can become financially stable and have that kind of money, and he can pull anything. You will not be the only woman. I know. Why am I talking this? Because I lived $1 million lifestyle for 5 years. My ex-husband was in the NFL. You know what I'm saying? I've dealt with the brokest dude and try to build him up. You will not be the only one. Women want to feel special. We lie to ourselves every single day. We deny the women that we see. If you have to ask your man, where were you? You already know where he was. Stop asking this man where he was. Are your bills paid? Are you eating? Can you go to the mall? Did you not just take that trip? Did he not just pay for your cousin's college tuition? Bitch, stop playing. You're asking too many questions. That is not your position to be playing. You need to shut the fuck up, let this man pay his bills, and let him do what he got to do, because you are not hungry. Your nails are done. Your toes are done. Your weave is on point. Your clothes, top, come on now. Chimichu who? You better start acting like you know these names. Louis Vuitton what? Ask him who's the latest designer, but don't ask him who the bitch was that he was with last night, because that is none of your business.
Preach! Yo, shit.
Wow, there's just so much to unpack there. The basic thing here, and it's the agenda that Kevin Samuels pushes, all these other Manosphere YouTube channels, this is what they push. They want to keep women small. They want to keep women in a box. They want to make sure that women do not aspire to be too great. They want to keep them in a box so they can feel superior as men, and so they can now decide how these women should live out their lives. And this is why there's conflict. There's a contrast with the modern woman.
Every 16 IQ points, a woman goes up from 100. She's 40% less likely to get married. And every 16 IQ points, a man goes up from 100. He's 35% more likely to get married.
Pursuing a career and a family is more difficult for women than it is for men. If you're a woman with an IQ of 145, the only men you're going to be interested in are men with an IQ of 145 and above, and that's like 1% of the population.
As a woman, I think if you end up being smarter than your significant other and you're challenging them all the time, then it does take away from the kind of dominance aspect that you find attractive in a relationship.
I think it's also, we don't want to underestimate the degree to which men are also intimidated by women who are outstanding across multiple dimensions. Men are certainly intimidated by women who are very physically attractive. So then if you take a woman who's very intelligent and very physically attractive, she's going to be a very intimidating target, and fewer men in all likelihood are going to approach her. And so what that means is that as a woman becomes more competent, which would include intellectually competent, her pool of eligible mates shrinks.
Modern woman who's educated, especially in America, more educated than men we find in America, at least like they finish university, especially amongst black men who are not finishing university, this is the problem. Because look, education, money, this is not attractive to a man, but we'll get to that. But that is a lie that it's not attractive, because if we go back to the first video, what he said was,
Pew put out a study that said that 78% of women would not date a partner or not get with a prospective mate that did not make more than they did. And only 48% of men shared that view.
So that means there's a 30% disparity. But people always want to push an agenda instead of looking at the actual data. If there's only a 30% gap, that tells me a lot. It tells me that men are just as similar to women. They're very similar. There's just a 30% disparity, right? And when you look at it this way, if you factor in the wage gap, right, as much as people will gaslight that there's a wage gap, there is a wage gap. Statistics, I will put them here, show that there is a wage gap. So when you look at the wage gap, the chances that women make the chances that women make more money than men is lower, right? So there is this pool. So there's this pool of men, 48% of men, right, that are looking for a woman that makes as much money as them or more. Well, how many of these women actually exist? And why is it that almost 50% of men want a partner that makes as much money as them? Let's really talk about why this is, right? It is because of inflation. We're no longer living in the 50s. The American dream has changed. The American dream is not about buying a house anymore. If you want to live in stability in this day and age, you need 2 incomes coming into your house. That is going to help, especially if you have children. I mean, I've had some videos where I talk about paternity court. I look at how these people are struggling to raise children on their own. Unless you're single and have no children, it doesn't make sense. So gone are the days where women can sit at home and be housewives and do nothing. Those days are limited. Men want a partner that can work and make money too. Now, the thing is that a lot of these men don't want a partner that makes more money than them. A lot of them, but not all. A lot, but not all. But that mentality is kind of silly, because why would you want to reduce your household income and have less access to wealth? Why would you want to do that? You know, it's more beneficial for everyone to make as much money as possible, right? And stop trying to live up to this patriarchal standard that says a man should dominate and be the head of the house. Well, if you want to be the head, typically, look, sometimes a captain of the ship works, right? But if you want to be the head of the house, right, you should be the one making the money, the most money. But if you're not, well, you have to be able to be willing to give that position to someone else. And also, it doesn't have to be a head, you know, there could be a partnership. We can both be equal, right? So anyway, I want to get back to this conversation about this idea that men don't want women to be more intelligent and more successful. And this idea of that, well, they said a good, 52% of men don't want their women to be intelligent, don't want their women to be successful. At least not more successful than them or more intelligent than them. And what does that say? It tells me a story about how men want to keep women in a box because it makes them feel more like the head, more like, you know, the whatever it is. And this very thing is the reason why a lot of women remain hypergamous, right? Because if a woman is the breadwinner in the household, well, then she's going to expect, not necessarily to be the head, but she's going to expect at the very least equality. But a lot of these men, regardless of whether they are making more or less, want to be the dominant one in the household. And that's just not, I just think that it's a very silly mentality. Like, I think that we are all people. You don't get to be superior to somebody. You don't get to be superior to somebody just because of the way that you were born. Nobody controls the way that they are born. And if it really comes down to it, in this world that we live in this capitalist society that we live in, capitalism, the access to finances is more important than race or gender. So whoever makes the most money presumably would be the head of that house based on the capitalistic society that we live in, right? But I don't even agree with that mentality, but I'm just playing devil's advocate and seeing that perspective, right? The reason, okay, so let's talk about why women are hypergamous. And I've talked about this in other videos, and I've gotten this from Jordan Peterson. He's talked about why women are hypergamous. It's because women have to make up for the setback that they're going to experience when they get pregnant.
Well, women are more picky in their mate choices than men, especially sexually. That's the case in every culture. And it's not surprising because women have more at stake sexually than men do. Per episode, because men don't get pregnant, obviously. And so that female pickiness that's the case.
We have examples of paternity court. I watched an episode and I reacted to it. Paternity court, this woman has twins and she's unable, she's the only one providing for her twins. She can't work. It's difficult to raise these children, and she's trying to prove paternity of this man, but he's out here trying to deny it.
Yeah, it's upsetting that I got to sit there and raise 2 babies by myself. I'm 23 years old. You know how hard it is having 2 babies? I wish this on no one.
You have an exhibit?
Yes, can
Please,
I go to the
step
easel and
over.
show you?
Yes, I'd like to see it.
Wonder what this is.
Okay, this me. As you can see, I got very thick eyebrows. So how do he have an M hairline? That's hereditary. That comes from whoever the father is.
Which is you. So we've got clothes, baby needs, milk, toiletries, totaling $2,000, which is why you're suing Mr. Brown for $1,000, because he would be responsible for half if he's in fact the biological father.
Yes, Your Honor.
On top of that, Ms. Mayo, you've also submitted to the court projected medical expenses for Chloe will be, because you said she was born deaf.
Yes.
And so she's going to need support in the form of education. You're going to need special education classes to learn how to sign. You spoke about that. Hearing aid, and also an implant surgery.
Yes, Your Honor.
These expenses total $216,550, almost $250,000 to support this beautiful little girl. And this is just a piece. And I can see that it hurts you and it concerns you.
Mm-hmm.
And look, let's be honest, it's scary.
Very scary.
And now...
He don't even know that. He just finding this out today.
Mr. Brown, you are the father.
So why would a woman want to choose a man that is not financially stable and will say, okay, yeah, let me take care of this child, because it's nothing, right? So that setback that women are going to experience from childbirth is the reason why women tend to go for people that are more financially stable than them. That's why it's sort of wired in their brains, right? So men that are requesting that women should require less, well, it's going to be difficult, because a lot of times when you see women in these positions, they end up suffering because they have to raise these children. They have to raise this child, you have to actually wake up, breastfeed, do all this stuff. I haven't even included the fact that you have to carry this child for 9 months or any of that. So you have to do all of these things. Then in addition to that, you now have to raise this child and pay for, so in addition to that, you have to pay for this child yourself or split the bills. After doing all the labor, you also have to split the bills. See, that's not the arrangement that makes sense. And I talk about the reason why the traditional system worked is because the male is the financial provider and the female is the caretaker of the household. That is why that business deal arrangement, that arrangement worked. But now we are in a modern era, right? Women have always been hypergamous. And now a lot of men are not making as much money as women. We're seeing that in society. But yet they get upset when women don't want to choose them. But when it comes to the woman, remember, she's still expected to take on this caretaker role. It's her biology. She has to. A woman just naturally wants to take care of her child when she gives birth to her child. But that's an additional setback, because if she's the one taking care of her child, or your child, both of your child, and then on top, in addition to that, she's the one providing all the money in the household, what role does the man have in this situation? Is this now just a freeloader? So these are things that we actually have to think about and just look at, right?
If you're irritated at women, you know, as a class of creature, there's something wrong with you, because they're right. You're wrong. They're right to not pick you. If they're not picking you, it's because they're right. What you have to understand is that, what do you expect from women? If you got pregnant because you had sex, you'd be pretty damn choosy too. So, you know, clue in a bit. And then, well, don't they find you attractive? Well, maybe you're not. Like, have you paid attention to how you dress? Do you have a plan? Are you as educated as you could be?
I think it would be more beneficial for more women to decide not to be, to date down, you know, I think it would be more beneficial, but I think there needs to be an equal arrangement in that circumstance. Because we live in a modern era, the times have changed, the systems have changed, and it's kind of disruptive, right? These are the times that people are trying to figure out the new way forward. And now people just have to figure out, it's not about, oh, she's a woman, therefore she's the one that has to do the dishes, she's the one that has to cook. It needs to be a shared landscape where everybody participates as much as they can. But you find these people, whether it's, everybody wants to have their cake and eat it too. Not everybody, but a lot of people. You find a lot of feminists that want to exploit the systems, right? That the traditional systems for women, where women are given, you know, open the door for women, chivalry and all this stuff, they want to exploit that. But when it comes down to sort of like, you know, paying for food at a restaurant, they don't want to share it, split the bill or stuff like that, right? But you also have men in these positions who haven't upheld their end of the bargain, right? In terms of like these traditional structures, right? A man is supposed to earn more money than his spouse, right? He's supposed to be the provider financially in this traditional landscape, right? But you don't want to do that. You're not able to do that, but you still want to take the role of the traditional man, which is the head of the ship, right? That's also problematic. Everybody wants to have their cake and eat it too, and it's just not realistic. What is going to have to be the case? Everybody just has to pitch in. Equality. There should be, I almost want to say there should be no roles, but I think biologically we are naturally wired to take a role, right? But either way, there should not be a societal standard that a man can't wash dishes, a man can't cook his meals, a man can't, you know, do housework, be the child's caretaker. If the woman makes more money, it doesn't make sense for her to quit her job. You should stay at home and take care of the kids if that's what she can afford for you to do. But people need to be open to this concept and understand. I think that this disparity, and I think they pointed this out in the video, is that there is a massive disparity. There is a massive, you know, conflict, because everybody wants to have their cake and eat it too. And I think that people just need to understand that if we can compromise, it would be more beneficial to everybody. And then in regards to that video where the woman is explaining that if a man makes over 100,000, he deserves to cheat on you and you should put up with it. That is just nonsense. There's nothing to say to that. Like, it's ridiculous. And I think I've covered that in a few videos that I've talked about why that is problematic, just like sort of like promiscuity, especially within black men. I've talked about that. So go watch some other videos. I'll link them down below. Anyway, those are my thoughts. What are your thoughts? Let me know. Leave a comment down below. You're watching the Kenim O Show, and my name is Kenim. Don't forget to like, follow, subscribe, all the above. See you next time.